Can you name this injury? As we walk through this video, your challenge is to see if you can figure out what exactly happened here based on what I teach you. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and if you're new here and enjoy learning about anatomy and different sports medicine injuries, then please be sure and subscribe to this channel for all future videos. We're gonna try something completely new here. Instead of me just telling you what the injury is, I'm gonna describe what I see, and your job is to comment down below with what you think specifically happened. In the end, we'll see if we agree. Let's watch it a couple times in full speed first. The first obvious thing to me is the snap that we hear. Anytime we hear a snap, that means that something has either ruptured or fractured. So right away, I'm thinking of either a fracture or some sort of ligament or tendon injury. The next thing I'm thinking about is the loading on the various portions of his leg. So of course, up here, we're going to have his thigh bone or his femur. Down here, we're going to have his tibia or the shin bone. Because we have these 2 points of contact when he's doing this loaded sissy squat, we're going to have a force that's pushing this direction on his tibia from this backstop here, and then another force kind of pushing this way. What all of this is basically going to be doing with the tibia in relation to the knee is causing the tibia to want to be pushed anterior or forward as he descends backwards into the sissy squat. The next thing I'm noticing are what muscles are being tensioned in what way. So of course, the quadriceps muscles are going to be here on the top of the thigh. Hamstring muscles are going to be here on the backside. As he's lowering down in the sissy squat, he's going to be eccentrically loading his quadriceps muscles. Eccentric loading is when you're contracting the muscle, but it's lengthening, it's stretching. Remember, the quadriceps originates up here at the top of the leg bone and the hip, and then originates down on the tibia at the tibial tuberosity. So it spans along this entire length. As he lowers down, he's stretching that quadriceps as it's still trying to fire to slowly descend downward. As he gets towards the bottom of the sissy squat, everything so far looks okay. But then right as he starts to try to go back upwards, you'll notice we see this shift in his knee. So what exactly is that shift? Well, remember the tibia is right here. And as he goes upwards, we can see this little transition as the tibia goes from being in a neutral position to then boom, right there, sort of popping forward, popping anterior. And this little shift is the key to really what happened here. So if you haven't put a guess down by now, let me know in the comments what exactly you think this injury was. To recap it again, we have forces from the machine pushing the tibia forward. We have him dropping backwards, eccentrically loading the quadriceps. But then as he tries to concentrically fire the quadriceps and come back up, we see this shift anterior of the tibia as the knee collapses. If you guessed patellar tendon rupture, sorry, but you're wrong. Quadriceps rupture, also incorrect. This is an example of an ACL tear. ACL stands for anterior cruciate ligament. Cruciate meaning cross, ligament because it runs between two bones, and anterior because it sits more in the front of the knee, and it prevents the tibia or the shin bone from moving anterior relative to the femur. Recall that little anterior shift that we saw in the tibia with the injury. What this means is that if you take one hand and you grab the femur, you take your other hand and you grab the shin bone, and you pull the shin bone forward, the primary passive restraint to that shin bone pulling forward is going to be the ACL. So if you took a pair of scissors and you cut the ACL, you're going to be able to pull the shin bone anterior or forward relative to the femur. It's actually how we test for an ACL injury. It's called a Lachman test or an anterior drawer test. If we make the femur transparent here, you can see that angle a little bit better here with the ACL. Again, running from the back side of the femur to the front side of the tibia. This is the same orientation here with our triple block. So as he's coming down, right about here is when we see that tibia shift forward because of the ACL being torn. There's no primary passive restraint there, and the ACL is able to go forward relative to its static position right there. Now, why doesn't the ACL tear in, say, this position? Or why doesn't it tear right here? It tears at a specific moment because it's right as he begins to concentrically fire his quadriceps muscle that you get additional pull in the tibia forward to cause that ACL to be under more pressure. What I've done now is add in the quadriceps muscle, specifically just the rectus femoris, but you can see here the quadriceps tendon and then the patellar tendon. When the quadriceps activates, because it inserts on the front of the tibia, it's going to pull the tibia anterior. Remember, the ACL is trying to prevent the tibia from going forward. So if you have unopposed quadriceps activation with no hamstring to balance it out behind it, you're pulling the bone in a direction that the ACL doesn't want it to go. The hamstring muscles have the opposite effect. Those sit in the backside of the knee, and when they fire, they reset the tibia posterior. So it's important to have really strong hamstring muscles to unload, so to speak, that ACL. As he gets down to the bottom of the sissy squat, he has to concentrically activate those quadriceps muscles to bring himself back up. So it's right when that quadricep fires right there that pulls just a little bit more on the tibia to put it over the edge to where the ACL will rupture. For those that said patellar or quadriceps tendon ruptures, let's talk about why it doesn't look like either of those. First of all, the quadriceps tendon, that's going to be a rupture up here, kind of above the kneecap, but below the muscle of the quadriceps. If you simply cut through right here to rupture that quadriceps tendon, the kneecap is going to stay in a relatively stable position, or if anything, is going to translate inferior down towards the foot. If we trace the position of the kneecap, so of course it's starting off right here, as we go through this whole injury sequence, you'll see that the kneecap doesn't really translate in either direction. It doesn't tend to go up towards the head. It doesn't really seem to snap down towards the leg. All we really are seeing is that tibia go from this position to then right there anterior displaced. And the same goes for the patellar tendon. If we were to cut the patellar tendon for it to rupture, what we'd see is the patella snap high up into the thigh, and we don't see that either. We also wouldn't see this severe amount of that anterior tibial translation. And if you're having a hard time seeing it, just look at where the outline of the front of the tibia is here on the wall. You can see how that distance goes down as it ultimately snaps. And so we wouldn't get that anterior translation of the tibia with a rupture of that extensor mechanism. If anything, the hamstrings would take over and we might see it go posterior, which in this case would be shown with the femur going forward because of how the back of his tibia is fixed in place. So let me know down below if you guessed correctly. Hopefully you've seen enough of my videos, if you're a returning viewer, that you were able to appreciate that shift in the tibia and know that this looked like an ACL tear. And if you guessed something else, then hopefully you learned something along the way. This is kind of a neat way to try and teach a concept by just walking through it and seeing if you can actively be engaged and guess what it is based on what I'm describing. So let me know if you like this, and if so, we'll continue doing them in the future. Let me know as always any questions or other comments down below, and until next time, we'll see you later.